Frontier Games have already told us about some of the groundbreaking features coming to Planet Coaster 2. These include, but are not limited to, scaling objects, sharing parks with friends, and an updated display sequencer. But that's not good enough. There's so much more to learn about this game that we don't already know because we literally only have one announcement trailer to go off. But here's a rapid fire list of things that we all want to see in Planet Coaster 2. Larger selection of coaster models, because in comparison to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, this is embarrassing. Larger selection of flat rides, because in comparison to Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, this is embarrassing. Larger selection of water and transport rides, because oh my god, what is this list of rides? Speaking of which, it would be really cool to get more monorails and more different types of transport ride, because I'm not being funny, but this monorail right here is practically unusable from the size of it. I saw many of you comment this on my last video, but separate load and unload stations for all rides. This should be a simple feature. An improved lighting engine that means we don't have to switch to nighttime to get all our interior lighting effects to work on like dark rides and stuff. Log flume and rapid rides to have more realistic stations, because I don't even need to search up on the internet, but I'm fairly certain no rapids ride has a station with air gates where they stop each individual boat. I don't think that exists anywhere. We all want turntable stations for the rapids, and log flumes, again, they can operate with turntables, but obviously a continuous moving conveyor belt station where the boats don't actually come to a stop. Speaking of the log flume, it would be really nice just to make a drop off of the top of the lift hill rather than have to do this awkward bump thing in order to go straight into a drop from the lift. I wasn't going to get into specific ride types in this video, but an Omni-Mover buggy style dark ride like the Haunted Mansion would be so cool in this game. More station customization. This station right here is just a big block of in the wayness. I would really love to be able to choose where the control panel and the operator is, or like how flipping massively long these gates are, which also applies to some flat rides that have the most enormous boundary. You don't really need this outside one because this is where the ride sort of ends. More efficient loading of guests. In the current game, you have to wait for every single guest to have walked out the exit gate from the station before the gates can even open, making the throughputs interesting, even though they technically don't have ride hosts in Planet Coaster, so the throughputs wouldn't be exactly realistic if they just opened the gates and then sent the train. So who knows. Ride host would be cool though. I know I kind of already said this on the log flume and the rapids, but continuously moving loading platforms like you would have on a Mauer spinner coaster like this, or like kind of like what Voltron has, if you've seen that at Europa Park. Pre-shows would be kind of interesting, wouldn't they? If you could have a batching room and then a sequencer, because we've got the new sequencer with a timeline, apparently. Maybe that would be kind of cool. Not really essential, but it's on my list as nice to have. Also, this is a creation from Digital Dan, not me. Obviously, in my last video, I mentioned about switch tracks, but I am also including in that transfer tracks, which again are kind of the same thing, but one is like a curved off and one is basically a piece of straight track that shoves over to the left or right. And with switch tracks, we could hopefully get the ability to do a swing launch like you have on Tutatis at Park Asterix in real life. Improved pathing tool. I think this might be one of the most requested features among anyone playing Planet Coaster, because making a plaza, or a plaza that isn't just a square, becomes a absolute nightmare, and you end up just using pathing covers like this to cover up all of these grass gaps. If we could have a pathing tool where we are able to potentially draw a shape out like a triangle, if our plaza is shaped like a triangle, and then that triangle becomes path, that might be the future. An improvement to the way that the fast track queue works would be fantastic because this just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think any fast track queue in the world starts halfway down the queue line, and you can't even bring your priority line to like a regular pathway like out here. The fast track queue has to start within the queue line. Show theatres or arenas. This is something that I feel like is very forgotten about, but is still something that is very, very prevalent in a lot of theme parks. In fact, most theme parks in the world probably have some form of auditorium, show, even like 4D cinema type thing where you have like 4D cinema seats and stuff like that. Like that would be very... What on earth is that? Would be a really cool attraction to have in our theme parks. On-ride photo cameras that work. Wow, that was bright. A guest could purchase their photos after they get off the ride. That might be kind of a cool mechanic. Clipping detection between textures. I know this is more of like a technical game thing, so might not be possible from like an actual mechanics of building a game. I actually don't know. It would be cool if they could like have a thing where the game knows that the textures are doing that sort of clipping, and it just auto picks one or the other. I don't know. I guess this might not be as much of a needed thing anymore now with park sharing. I noted down that when me, Jordan, Tom and Dan were sharing this theme park that I've been filming most of this video in, you know, we would like blueprint an item, like save it as a blueprint, and then bring it over to the park because you know, we'd carry on building while someone else has the part file and just blueprint our new creations in. When you blueprint it in, you have to like perfectly realign it with where you intended for it to be built. If something's location and orientation could be remembered when you blueprint something, so when you load it into a new map, it just knows to be in the same location as the exact location you saved it in. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. That's probably absolute gibberish. Better track smoothing that doesn't remove the heart lining from your coasters. Functional back of house areas might be kind of cool. Functional guest car parks. Just imagine for a second, guests actually show up by car and park in each parking space, and you have another sort of like element of management, like is your car park big enough to deal with the crowds? And it would eliminate guests just wandering out of this weird dark tunnel in the corner of our park. If they drove through the tunnel though, that would be pretty cool. Guest turnstiles at the entrance of the park, walk-through attraction designs such as aquariums, mini golf, or even scare mazes. That would be kind of interesting. Again, I wasn't going to get into specific ride types in this video, but a powered coaster would be really cool. I really need to recreate the flying fish. Drop towers where you can decide how tall they are by actually building them. That was a feature in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Some form of click and drag fence creation system, so you don't have to go through one by one like this. Click your cursor and just drag it and it just creates all of that. That would be pretty cool. An improvised support editor where we could actually do supports like this. I completely pointed the wrong way. Like this. These supports were definitely not made by me. I'm not that talented. These were made by Jordan Cobb, otherwise known as Thrillverse. If we had some form of editor where we could actually make supports like this a lot quicker and easier. And the last one from my list was more creative ride breakdowns. It'd be really cool if a ride could actually break down and stop on its lift hill. I keep pointing the wrong way. Like imagine if that coaster there just stopped on its lift hill. If you were flying around your park and you saw a coaster broken down on its lift hill on a block section or something, that might be kind of interesting. This is also not created by me. This is Dan's mine train that he made. In fact, this whole theme park, this entire theme park here is a collaboration project between myself, Digital Dan, Tom Rides Rides and Jordan Cobb. Thrillverse. It has taken over a year to get to this point, and it is still far from done. So there we go. There's a list of maybe 30. I didn't actually count. I think it's 30. I hope it's 30. There's a list of things that would be amazing if they were added into Plan Code 2. And if they're not all added into Plan Code 2, then I'll be writing a heavily worded email to Frontier Development Games Studio. Goodbye.